It's not always the best time to own real estate. And I'm aware that that's contradictory to what I often say on this channel, because more often than not, what you're going to hear me say here is that time in the market beats timing the market. However, I've done it myself. I have sold an investment property rather than hold on to that property long term, which I know is a strategy that will pay me back better in the future. But I did. I sold an investment condo of my own, and I'm going to tell you why right after I ask you to make an investment in the like button to help me get this information out to even more people through the YouTube algorithm. And if you have an investment property to sell because it looks like our market here in the Fraser Valley has peaked for the foreseeable future, well, you can book a call with me right now down below in the description, so I can show you how you can get your most amount of money out now more than you would later. Unless later is a lot later, because then you'll for sure sell for more eventually. And of course, while you're down there, you can download my Informed Buyer's Guide using the link. And with all that out of the way, let's get on to why I personally sold an investment property. First off, I want to come clean on the clickbait that is this video, because yes, I did sell an investment property, but nope, not recently. The last property I sold was way back in 2017. But just to be totally transparent, let's go over the numbers so you can see why I did what I did and the results that I got. In 2011, I purchased my first ever investment property for $145,000. That was a 2-bed, 1-bath condo in the Surrey neighborhood of Newton. It was an amazing opportunity that basically came out of nowhere, and I was absolutely terrified to own a second property and become a landlord. But I put on my big boy shorts and, well, I made it happen. And at that time, I was 31 years old, able to scrounge up an extra $25,000. So that was my initial investment. And I had a partner, so they put in another $25K. And believe it or not, that partnership is actually part of the reason that I ended up selling the property, but more on that in a sec. So we put down, let's call it about 30%, and moved in our first tenant after a little bit of paint and repair. But that first tenant, after living there for many years, well, they kind of trashed the place, leaving me really discouraged. You see, when we purchased the property, the carpet was only a couple of years old, but the time that that tenant moved out, well, we had to replace the carpet again. And because of the age of the unit and the wear and tear from that particular tenant, we ended up completely replacing the kitchen as well. That included cabinets, new countertops, and backsplash. So let's call that about $7,500 that I didn't plan on spending. But luckily, with those little fix-ups that we were able to do, we found a great new tenant. And as time goes on and you get a new tenant, that is one of the best times to now increase rent. So we were able to increase rent, which then helped us cash flow even better, because at one point in time, the strata fees went up so high that we were just breaking even. But it did either break even or cash flow slightly positive the entire time I owned it. And as a quick little side note, I do find that you do need to be 30 to 35% down here in my market of Surrey in order to break even or hopefully cash flow slightly positive. And I think that should be your goal, because too much rental income can be taxed higher, and well, higher taxes is not the goal of an investment property. But this video is supposed to be about why I sold that property, so let's get into it. The first reason was, well, the headaches. As I said, my first tenant was a bit of a pain, but the second tenant wasn't that bad. But here's one thing I can tell you for certain as a landlord, or if you're thinking about becoming a landlord: your tenant never phones you just to say hello. So when your phone rings and you see your tenant's number, you know that the rest of your day, maybe week or month, is going to be ruined by a problem that you have to fix or pay for. Like when the dishwasher broke, or the fridge stopped working, or when the toilet seat broke 3 times. And even if it was something I could do nothing about, I still got the phone call. Like when the building totally lost all of its heat and hot water because of the central boiler breaking. At that point, there was absolutely nothing I could do. Even after I phoned the strata manager, trust me, they were already very well aware of it and waiting for a repairman. But the tenant kept calling me over and over and over again, like I might be able to fix it. So keep in mind, when you do buy an investment property, this type of ongoing maintenance and these type of headaches come with the territory, unless you're going to hire a property manager to do it for you. Yes, you can actually outsource the headaches, and that's a great option, but it'll cost you a fee. And believe it or not, that's actually one of the reasons that I personally choose to invest in condos rather than the detached market. Not only is it easier to get into an investment condo just because of the price point, but also I don't have to deal with the headaches, or at least not as many of the headaches. When the roof leaks, that's on strata. When the basement floods, again, a strata problem, albeit again at another monthly cost, which is that strata fee. Another reason I wanted to sell the property was one that I've already actually mentioned earlier. I owned that property with a partner. You see, getting into real estate investing with a partner makes a ton of sense. It makes it easier to qualify. You have to put up less capital, and then you're taking on only a portion of the risk. And since you have somebody else putting money in with you, you're likely going to come up with even more money to put down, meaning you have a greater chance of getting into a cash flow positive position than you do investing on your own. On top of that, the partnership was actually really good. We didn't have any conflict. We saw eye to eye. There wasn't a problem at all. But I was given this piece of advice one time, and I'm going to share it with you here. If you have the chance to get out of a partnership on a high when times are good with a profit, take it. If you're in a partnership with someone else and that investment starts to maybe lose money, or one of you doesn't want to be in it anymore, the partnership can start to sour. And since so many people are in business partnerships with friends that they know, the friendships can kind of go bad as well. So while you're in a partnership, rather than just letting it ride, you may want to take the opportunity to cash in your chips, even if your investment is not at the top, but rather at a time that benefits everyone. But the last reason that I chose to sell that particular property was that you have not yet taken the opportunity to subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on local Surrey and Fraser Valley real estate. I'm just kidding, but if you would subscribe, I would really appreciate you helping me grow this channel. The real last reason that I decided to sell that property was the fact that the building was just getting too old. The unit I owned was built in 1975, and that's older than me. And as they say, nothing lasts forever. The building was actually in very good shape, but it was always kind of nagging in my mind, just the general age and maintenance that needed to be done. So I knew at some point the shoe was going to drop. In this particular building, the strata actually did a very good job of continually doing ongoing maintenance, raising money through strata fees rather than special levies. While I owned, they even repiped the entire building at no extra cost to me as the owner. But let's face it, I am a worrier, and that was not enough to keep me in the investment. And let me be clear, I'm not worried about small little levies like painting, new railings, or even the roof. Nope, what I was worried about was large strata levies for things like possibly rain screening, or at that age, it could be parquet or foundation issues. The idea of having to refinance that property to pay for that type of repair was enough to scare me into selling at that time. And to be honest, I did have another opportunity at that time where I felt like that money would be better used. So we took the opportunity and I sold. Now remember, we bought that property for $145,000 in 2011. And just 6 years later, we were able to cash out at $259,000, meaning that the original $25,000 investment that I made, plus half of the repairs and maintenance, turned into about an $80,000 paycheck for myself after expenses and paying down the principal over years. And of course, capital gains was then also due, so there was some taxation, but luckily I had RRSP room at the time and was able to offset those taxes. And yes, in case you were wondering, I absolutely regret selling that property, because now, as little as 5 years later, the most recent sale in that complex was for $462,000 for a similar unit. And the money I got out at that time actually did go somewhere else, as I mentioned, but all that got me was a backyard landscaping renovation. So it didn't pay off, but now that I think about it, having that outdoor space in my principal residence during 2 years of lockdown, well, that could be worth foregoing the other $100,000 that I could have made if I held on to the property. And yes, indeed, since then I have purchased another property, only this time my business partner is also my partner in life. The tenant has been spectacular, and on top of all that, the building is a lot newer. If you would like to sell your investment property because you've got the opportunity to use that money somewhere else, you can book a selling consultation with me right now down below in the description with just a few simple clicks at a time that works best for you. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram to stay up to date on my team's listings. Remember to like and subscribe. Check out another video here on the channel before you go, and we'll see you in a couple of days.